back at it on Jay's Cobra. So I'm at the end of my 2-week vacation. I got a little bit of time, so I figured I'd go through all these parts that we received and match them up to the old stuff, make sure they're right. So first of all, is this little backing plate. Remember, this thing is all eroded away. Worried about it sealing back up. Not very expensive. I think this was like a $60 plate from Summit, but we got a new one of those. We got all the gaskets that go behind that and in front of it for the water pump. Pulley situation. So the old one was this V-belt one. But remember this goofy stuff here? Yeah. And this, how screwed up that pulley is. So they had this brand new kit from Summit. I forget who makes this one. It might be Summit brand actually, but it's a serpentine one. So we should be able to get that going. Just put one belt on there and replace all of this. Water pump, factory Ford cast iron one right here. This is a flow cooler aluminum one. So everything is the exact same. We got the radiator. This is from Unique. So they have these custom made, and then this Spall fan is what goes with it. I got an assortment of different coolant lines because all the old stuff was horrible. So this is an extra gas filler neck one, but this should be a couple of different size coolant lines. So hopefully we could hook that up. It's going to be a little bit different than what's in there now, but we'll figure it out. Harmonic balancer, this is the old one. See the rubber's coming out of it, and it's grooved pretty good. Brand new Dorman one. That's the exact same. We got a new oil pan. But if you remember right, the oil pan that's underneath this thing is crushed where the drain is at. And no matter what I do, I cannot get that to seal. It just constantly seeps oil out of it. Oil pan gasket kit. Unique also sent us the new radiator cap in line, and then this is the transfer that goes on the firewall because the one that's up there is rusted out really bad. And then the last thing that we got is ARP bolt kit. So if you remember right, the whole reason why we started doing the front of the motor is because of broken bolts. So a bunch of those are corroded nasty anyway, so we got the nice ARP kit. So I think I can lower this down, and I need to clean up the front, and I can reinstall this, get that sealed up good with the water pump, and then we can do the oil pan next. I think I got it all cleaned up. I took a razor blade and a wire brush, brushed that whole front of that off, have the oil pan out. Everything under here looks pretty good. As far as I can tell, it's stock. Looking at the cam, all the lobes look good. And then looking at the cylinders, the best that you can tell, everything looks good in there. Doesn't look like anything's had a lot of heat in it. And then the oil pan pickup looks pretty good. It's got a couple of little goobers on it. That feels like silicone. But it looks pretty good under here. So I'm going to dry fit this front cover on first and make sure I have all the gaskets and everything set. I'm going to take some carb cleaner and clean all the oil off of there first. And then once that's good to go, then I want to start assembling that. The oil pan needs to go on last because this front seal that seals from the front cover to the oil pan, this front cover's got to be on there first. So let me start dry fitting. Water pump and timing chain cover are on there. I put the pointer on there because I needed to put these two bolts in there anyways. And then this bolt over here didn't hold anything else. But up here, I'm going to have to take these two bolts off to put the alternator bracket. But at least for right now, while that silicone is setting up, because I siliconed and then gasket, silicone, and then this flange, and then silicone gasket, silicone, and then the water pump. Trying to make sure you give it the best chance of sealing up. So now we're going to put the oil pan on there. Kind of do the same thing, silicone it, gasket, and then put the pan up there. So let's get working on that. Oil pan installed. So there was a couple of missing bolts, but we had some extra ARP bolts. So I put those in there. I silicone the crap out of it because I don't want it to leak. So I can put the starter back in. It was easier to get to these bolts with that starter out. And probably put the harmonic balancer back on. Yep, that's what we can do. Harmonic balancers on there and our new serpentine crank pulley. So that's about everything I think I can do on the front of the engine from down here. I think I need to be up there to do the alternator, put the coolant temp sensor in here. I got to plug off the other heater core port on the water pump. But since we got a new radiator, I think I might try and unbolt these questionable looking bolts that might snap off and see if we could swap that radiator out. All right, I've been screwing around trying to get this radiator out of here, and the problem is where the sway bar mounts, that right there and that right there. When you try and pull the radiator this way to get it out of this, it wedges against those. So I tried trimming those up, still didn't get enough room. So I ended up doing is cutting this loose. I'm gonna finish breaking that off of there, and then this whole thing should fall out. This I didn't realize was there. This one's got a little welded on tab. But this one has got this guy, and this one does not. Physically, the core on this one is 1 inch wider, but overall it's the same dimensions. So I need to try and hang this, but I need to fix this goofy all-thread bolt that they had up there. I got a solution, a better solution for that. But this is where the bottom was, so I cleaned this up. I still got to clean this up because I got to re-weld that in there. But the top, it used, you can't even see it, that bolt hole right there, through this fiberglass, and then that bracket for the radiator goes back here. And you can't even get to that freaking stupid thing. So I got to come up with a better solution for that. Aluminum radiator is hung in there by that upper bolt. So that guy right there goes on that bracket, which you can't barely even see between this fiberglass support. So it's just hanging by that right now. And then this is what was in there, is this support here. So this was in there like this. So what I'm gonna do is take some flat material and weld it on the bottom of this, going this way, so I could put a bolt on either side, and then you could just unbolt this and take it out of there. What a freaking bright idea. I know. Next time you take the radiator out, you don't have to freaking cut apart the frame to do it. Silly. It's not painted yet, but here's the final product for the radiator support. So I welded these tabs on. Bolts go through, you can drop it out. And what I did is there is rubber that is glued in that saddles this. So the only thing that touches the radiator is rubber. Can you see that? It's hard to see. The sun is just like shining right on in here. This side's easier, see? It's not like 100% beautiful, but it actually really isn't that bad. I'm gonna drop that down, shoot some paint on it, and then Bob's your uncle. Things changed slightly. So what we got here is the mount, but it's moved forward about a ½ inch. And the reason is the front, you got the radiator and it looks cool with no fan in there. Plus, the fan that was on there was pushing air forward, where when you drive, you got air going through the radiator towards the rear of the car. So that's probably part of the reason why it was getting too hot. So, with moving this radiator support forward, we're able to get enough room, barely, so that we can fit a fan between the radiator and the sway bar. So I'll stick it up there and I'll show you. Ta-da! So it does sit further forward, and there is a gap in there. I mean, it's tight. There's not a lot of room. But I've got the little tie-down things coming because the old ones, I broke a couple of them. So these just go through the radiator, and then this just pushes on the other side. So I ordered a new kit so we can get new ones coming. I put the skid plate on there, and I had to space it down so there's enough space. And you can see there's an old piece of hose that's in there. That's because this thing rattles. So I wedged that old piece of hose in there to stop that. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the lower radiator hose hooked up, and that's going to be a nightmare. So I'll fight that, and then I'll report back. As part of trying to resolve this car getting hot, we pulled the thermostat housing out, and it's got a 205 degree thermostat in it, which is warm. And then also look at, it's no wonder why it was leaking from this thing. It's not even flat. So we got a new one ordered. We do have a thermostat. It's 180 degree, but we don't have a housing. And look at this thing. You see how not flat that is? That's a problem. And we got all of the spark plugs on this side plugged in, finally. Lower radiator hose is on there. I'm not a huge fan of the routing, but this is how it was. So I put new silicone line and some legit clamps on there. And then now Dad's just figuring out the alternator mounting, because we got to do that, get the water pump pulley on there, and then we got to measure for a serpentine belt. Nobody local has one of these, so I ordered a new housing. I'm waiting for this cap to show up for that. And we did pull the wiring out for the fan. It was a manual fan control. Well, we're going to have the Holley control it now. So we do have the wiring for this new fan, but I'm also waiting for the standoff things for that so that I can mount that on the radiator in there. So we are making progress. It's just we're finding more things we got to buy as per the normal. So this was the belt combination, crank, water pump, and alternator. And the issue that we found is that this had this goofy little spacer thing on it. This thing. So this had this goofy little spacer on here. And it was to space it out. And the reason is this isn't even a Ford pulley. This one is. And then this has got a one-wire alternator on it, like kind of a universal sort of thing. So the new serpentine kit that we put on there looks like this. And then the alternator goes there. Well, this is not Jay's alternator. His alternator has a different shaft size on it than this Tough Stuff alternator. So this diameter of shaft is bigger than that diameter of shaft. So then the pulleys wouldn't even work. So I had to get that another alternator to put the pulley on there. This one is a single wire, so it's got the regulator on it. So we're going to swap the regulator over to that. And then we've got to go get some belts. I already went to purchase 4 of them, naturally. I purchased 4 that are all too short. So I got to go back to the hardware store or to the auto parts store, swap those belts for new ones so I can get the right length belt on there. But Jay, you're also getting a new alternator because this one is, I don't know what the shaft size is, and I didn't want to do some funky like machining on a pulley, and then if you had issues you wouldn't be able to figure it out. So now you got a Ford alternator back on there. Thermostat housing is installed. New guy on there. It's a Dorman one. Siliconed it, gasket, silicone on the other side. And then I did the plug for the heater core block off. So now I need to get voltage regulator swapped from this alternator over to this one. Making a little bit of progress. Alternator is mounted. So I got the gauge on the dash that was already on there, wired up for the coolant temp. And then right below that is the Sniper coolant temp sensor. Got that wired up. Alternator's in there. Belt is on there. It's kind of goofy because there's not a tensioner, but this is how it was before. It just has a serpentine instead of a V-belt. So it doesn't have a whole lot of engagement on the water pump, but Dad's 304 and the Hornet's kind of the same way with the serpentine conversion, so hopefully it'll be all right. Here's my current situation. I gotta be in here because that there coolant hardline, it bolts through the inner fender, and I can't get to anything from up top, so I'm crammed in between the radiator and the steering rack so that I can with one hand hold that, and then on the other side of the inner fender well is the nut. So it's super comfortable in here. Let me tell you, it's great. Let's see, where do we want to mount you so that you can see what's going on here? We need to mount the radiator fan. So let me find it first. That's our first step. I put it somewhere. I don't know where the frick it is. All right, so the wiring needs to go up. Or at least it needs to go towards the drive or the passenger side, because that's where the wiring for everything else has been going. So fan is going to go like that-ish. We've got this little kit right here, see it? Fresh off of Amazon. Quick radiator mount, it pushes through the radiator. Some people might not like these sort of kits. I'm kind of that some people, but I ain't got much room here. So we're working with what we got. Oh, that's neat. It's got these little foam Doodrum daddies. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go through this. I want to try and put it as centered as possible, just because I'm a little weird like that. But those little peg things go through, and then this guy goes on the other side of it. Okay. This is our new radiator hose deal. This thing is weird because it kind of covers up this overflow. I mean, you could still get this off of here. This is kind of interesting, but that's how it was, Jay. So that's the way that it's going to be. I'm not going to change any of that stuff. Or not now anyways. But we need to measure, so we get a hose here. And then this has got like the fill. It's got some other stuff in it, but let's start with this side. So we want a minimum of 1 foot. Actually, 1 foot will probably do pretty good. That'll give us about 1.25 inches overlap. So let's just start with that. I looked everywhere. Can't find that hose. So I checked Amazon. It got lost in the mail. So anyways, I'm moving on to something else. We got to tie up all this wiring that's right over here, right? And make it look nice and neat. This old wiring, which was the old wiring for the voltage regulator, the alternator, and the old distributor. All of that stuff's got to get tucked up nice and neat. So let's work on getting this stuff tied up. I think I'm just going to put you on a time lapse, see if it makes it into the video or not. Okay, we need to get our drain. Oh, here it is. This is our drain. We need to get our gloves back on because we're going to get oily. Sure are. And then we need a croissant so that we could loosen up that drain bolt. You know, the nice thing about the 360 camera is no matter where I'm at and how I talk to you, I could just edit and you could keep watching me. See, I'm just walking around talking and you can keep seeing me, and the camera, you're mounted over there. But I don't have to even move it, see? Look at me, here I am. Here, I'm even outside of the lift, and you could still see me, right? Over in the periffs here. Anyways, let's go get a wrench and start the wrenching. You know, that oil is pretty shiny. It's pretty shiny. Let's see if we can get some better eyes on it. Look at that. There is a lot of metallic in there. Yeah, that looks that's what it looks like. I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but that is very metallic-y. We might just pretend we didn't see that, but we're gonna find out what it looks like when we take the cover off. Yes, we are. Pretty neat. Dad put this little like filter thing in here to keep this from splashing, and it's nice because you can put the drain bolt in there and it doesn't fall down the tube. Anywho, leave that at that. I think those are 1/2 inchers. Yep, I reckon that's what they are. We're really gonna need to just wipe some stuff down here because this is just, let's turn the bar back, there we go. This is just oily. You could tell this is some gear lube too, because this shit is thick, real thick. Like them fellers that like them real thick ladies, you know, with the real big booties and stuff. Well, they like big butts and they cannot lie is what they say. And you other brothers, you can't deny. A girl walks in with a itty bitty waist, you know, so. All right, let's take the cover off. I reckon we got to take that goofy frickin' breather line off. What in the hoot? I don't know. Let's get you moved over here so you can see. We'll start the time lapse again, all right? Was definitely a breather, but look at the end of it's freaking pinched off. So I might open that up a little bit so it can breathe better. Maybe that's why it freaking blew the seal out. It got hot and it found the path of least resistance. But look at that. She pinch closed. Last bolt. Now we gotta pop the cover loose. Oh, that didn't take much effort. Now we gotta try and get the cover out from under there somehow. Alright, weaseling it this way. Weasel, weasel. Interesting. It's funky in there, and it definitely smells like gear lube, which I guess it would be since it's diff, right? There's some spider gears in there, so it is a open rear diff. It doesn't. Oh, it might have some friction plates under there. I don't know. Let's see if we can hose it out a little bit to flush some of that gunk out of there, you know? But before we do that, let me get you in there so we could see, you could see, we could see, you could see, we could all see what we're working with, all right? All right, you're gonna be able to see this better than me, but What's in there? Can you see stuff? Does it look good? I can't really tell because I'm underneath it here. But let's do the old sweep a finger on the bottom here and see. Oh yeah. There is just, why is there so many different colors in there? I mean, I guess it's been sitting, but yeah, that looks like liquid anti-seize is in there. That's interesting. Not sure, Jay, not sure. There definitely was a gasket on there. Oh yeah, look at this. Might be able to peel that off of there in one piece. Ooh, biscuits and gravy. We're not gonna reuse it probably because, oh yeah, it's broken. But anyways, we'll get some carb cleaner in there, see if we can hose that down, clean it up a little bit. Just trying to get the majority of the grease and grime and stuff off of here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just trying to make it look a little bit better and get the big chunks of loose crap off of here. Clean you off. I think I juiced you a little. Alright, let's see. I think that's about all the cleaning I'm going to do, other than the surface of it, maybe a little bit more. But let's see if we can get a better idea of what the gears look like. So the ring, I mean, it's got some wear in it for sure, but it doesn't look like there's any chunks missing. Pinion gears, or spider gears, I mean, those are the ones that have the most wear in them. I don't see any chunks missing. Pinion gear, see about half of it. It looks good. I'm gonna say we clean the surface of that up good, silicone it, put the cover back on there. That's what I say. Trying to strategically do this so that we don't wipe all the silicone off of the gasket surface. Alright, those are all tight. We'll probably leave the drain open while that's drying out, and then tomorrow I can look at resealing that. But for now, or I could look at refilling that tomorrow. For now, let's figure out what size this is so we can get a wrench on there and take the fill plug out. Well, I guess I should have tried taking that out of there before I put the cover back on there, huh? Because I don't want to come out. Yeah, she don't want to come out of there. that thing was gorilla tight in there, but it taws. I figured it out. That's why I didn't want to come out of there. Those threads are munched and it was bottomed out to those threads. So I need to find another plug. Hopefully this is just an MPT. I think this is Jaguar rear end. So hopefully this is just MPT size. How loose are these bolts? Let's see. I mean, that seems like it's loose. Same way. How about this one? Yeah. Okay, so all 4 of them you can rotate with your fingers, so that's good. So let's take care of that, why don't we? Okay. She is solid now, so that's good. The other thing Jay wanted me to look at is seat belts. The seat belts do have big fender washers on them. So he was concerned about that, but they already have big fender washers on them. So that's not a concern. We want that to set up. I forget how long it needs to set up, but we're gonna let that set up before we put oil in it. That is it for part 3 of the Cobra video. But tune back in because, man, a lot of other things happened. You just didn't get to see them all yet. So part 4 is coming pretty soon.